Dawson Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to my review for the Power Rangers Beast Morphers episode, Gorilla Art. And was there no better time for this shirt? Absolutely not, because this episode was a classic Justice for V-Spots episode. So the core premise had to do with Ravi's storyline about being an artist, which we learned about in the Tuba episode. And he was drawing Roxy in her sleep. It makes him sound kind of creepy, but it wasn't creepy. Was it creepy? And Smash caught him, and he doesn't want anybody to know he's an artist because, like, his mom's so strict. She's like, you can't even think about having hobbies, you're not a good ranger. That's not what she said, but that's what she's thinking. He, like, erases his memory of the last few minutes, but then somehow whatever he did causes Smash to become obsessed with art, so he starts painting somewhere. Like, I guess, like a ghost memory of it. So it creates this whole situation where they think Smash is glitching, like there's a virus or something wrong with his programming, but it was just because Ravi basically messed him up over that. And then while that was going on, you know, villains attacking as usual, but also Vargoyle was revealed! And, you know, if you followed the international spoilers, whether you watched the episodes or just read them or watched them or whatever, you knew that Vargoyle was just a one-off, well, not a one-off, a three-off whatever monster from Go Busters, who was just a regular monster. Like, he wasn't, a lot of people speculated he was going to be Neo Gryphosaur from the Dino Team-Up movie, and either he was going to be used kind of in a similar capacity to Neo Zeltrax, or Neo, whatever the heck his name was in Power Ranger, you know, or leading up to the Triple Dino Team-Up next year, but it's just a regular monster. He was like an arc monster in Go Busters, not meaning like to do with an arc, but like, you know, he had like more than one episode, and then he does come back again later on in a different form a little bit. So it just ended up being this dude, and it turns out he was actually the creation of Scrozzle, who kind of like a Frankenstein situation where then it just got out of his control. So I think any disappointment coming from that is a classic case of the fandom theorizing so much where they end up coming up with cooler theories than what actually happens. Like, I think it would have been cooler to be Neo Gryphosaur because the name fits, whether or not it would take on a role like Snide did, where it becomes this main villain despite it being from a movie, or whether it would actually lead up to the Triple Dino Team-Up, which would have been really cool, way foreshadowing. But I'm like mostly fine with it. I thought it was interesting that it was Scrozzle's creation and not just, I assumed whoever the suit was gonna be, whether it was Neo Gryphosaur or this guy or somebody else or a guy named Jeff, I assumed that he already inhabited that cyber dimension they're in, and that Scrozzle just ran into him and he was kind of already had domain over it. But it was an interesting wrinkle that Scrozzle actually created him. If they ever do anything more with that remains to be seen, but that was kind of interesting. And he sort of comes in to be almost that classic new general villain that screws up the dynamic and the motivations or the ambitions of the core generals, which are Blaze and Roxy. So that was definitely interesting. Like I said, there's parts I like about it. I'm a little bit disappointed by it, but I think that has a lot to do with a lot of the fan ideas being cooler than what actually happened. And then he ends up getting the upgrades that they've been striving towards because they finally have all three powers downloaded, and he actually gets it. So I do like the storyline that has been created for the villains over this last stretch episodes in the back half, where you had Blaze and Roxy in competition for this power-up, and then this other guy gets it, so then they are now uniting against him. And I really like when the villains feel like they have their own story. I'm not saying Beast Morphers is the best at it, but that's kind of a problem I've felt with Sentai even recently, is I feel the villains have a real lack of presence, and I miss when the villains have their own storylines and dynamics and feel like a part of the show, and that is something they're doing here, which I really like. So I thought that was interesting, even if there's some disappointing aspects to it. I mean, that inherently also had a disappointing aspect because when the storyline started during the international airings, people were speculating, like, I wonder if the upgrade power will lead to a different escape or enter suit we know about, which is not the case. So again, that was another thing where the fandom we kind of teed ourselves up for something cooler. But not that I don't like the dynamic, like I said, that was started by this with the character stuff, but there's definitely some cooler directions that people pointed out it could have gone. As for the Ravi stuff, I did like the storyline, but I felt really bad for Smash. Like, they almost like totally messed with his circuitry again because I thought there was something really wrong with him. And I think it just really continued the trend of the Beast Bots being, like, mistreated. Like, it's kind of a joke, like I got the shirt, but not really. Like, almost every episode they're focused on, they're like the purest, most helpful creatures, and they're just always treating them like dirt, and I kind of hate that. So that really, especially Smash, I feel like Smash is the most pure of all of them, to be honest. Especially since later when Ravi's like, sorry I messed with your memories, man, I couldn't let anybody know. And he's like, well, I've already known this whole time, but I was just keeping it a secret because I'm a total bro, but then you mind wiped me. Like, WTF, mate. So like, that made me feel even worse for him, that he actually already knew about this secret, and he wasn't gonna tell anybody, but then Ravi was a complete douche about it. Something I did like about that, though, was it was a continuation of the storyline about Ravi's art and this aspect of his character of him having other interests and hobbies that are being held back by being a ranger. And I think that's an interesting take on sort of the dutiful Blue Ranger role, where you kind of have a by-the-books ranger, and usually that's it. They're by the books and there's a specific reason. But I like that Ravi is that character, but he actually has other interests, but he's afraid to show them because of how strict Grid Battle Force with his mom is in some aspects. And I think that's an interesting take on that type of character. We haven't really seen a lot before that I can think of, because it's usually like Sky wasn't secretly, I don't know, drawing nude people. I don't know, I had to go back to art. I was trying to think, what's another hobby besides art? Playing video games or something. Like, he was a dutiful ranger for a reason. So I think that was interesting, and I like that it tied back to Roxy too, and reminding you of their connection and that sort of sadness there over her being mixed up in this, and the way that it ended between them before that. So there was some nice character beats in there, even though, like, I'm like, oh, Ravi, you still love her, and you can't express your art. Well, to hell with you, because of what you did to Smash. I thought this was an enjoyable episode. Like, I thought they did a good job of furthering a couple different stories with, like, the main villain stuff and some of the character stuff, and I found it to be overall enjoyable. I would give it an 8. Anyway, that's about it. What did you guys think of the episode? Do you believe there should be justice for B-Spots? If you want one of these shirts, you can check out my shirt store in the comments. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for all my videos. Helps me out a lot. Thanks, guys. Dawson Ryder, signing out.